Welcome back to another episode of The Lofty Lender. Today I am joined live with my buddy Mark Bunge here. Mark is a dedicated and knowledgeable realtor with RE/MAX Precision, specializing in helping clients buy and sell homes in central Iowa. With years of experience, Mark has built a reputation for providing exceptional service and expert market insights. His commitment to understanding client needs and his extensive knowledge of the local market make him a trusted advisor in real estate transactions. Outside of his professional life, Mark is deeply involved in the community and enjoys spending time with his family. He's known for his integrity, dedication, and passion for helping others achieve their real estate goals. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
Yeah, that's good.
All right, so business and beyond. That's our first segment.
All right.
Tell me a little bit about how you got into real estate.
So I had gotten laid off from selling mortgages. So I was basically doing your job for about 4 years. I worked for Wells Fargo and then Bank of the West, and then my performance was not where it needed to be in lending. Oddly, I think I'd be a better lender now than I was then. About 9 years ago, they let me go. Best thing that could have happened, to be honest. And then my neighbor across the street, he was a lender working at your former employer, Midwest Heritage, and he told me, he's like, "Why don't you just get your real estate license? I'll send you some deals." And and so I'm like, "All right, well, I did." $3,000 later, I'm like,
That was easy.
and 9 years later, I'm like, all right, still doing it. I love it. It's great.
So what did you take away from being a lender then, as taking that into real estate? What value do you think that provided?
Well, I mean, a ton, because I was familiar with the products. I was, simple things like, say FHA having certain, or VA having certain appraisal rules, so I'm probably more equipped to spot that than most real estate agents, just in that regard, because I've actually been on the other side of the transaction, and I realized what questions I should never answer. Like if they're asking me like, "Hey, is this a good rate?" Well, you shop it, or like, "Hey, this is why is he asking me for this document?" I'm like, honestly, the answer is going to be because the underwriter told him to ask for it. That's the only reason he's ever asking for it. So just give it to him. It's like, you can debate all you want, but it'll be less stressful for everybody if you just provide the docs. So, it really kind of gave me this unique perspective where I'm like, I go from like being like, all right, I have to ask the client for all these documents, all these things related to their tax returns, all that stuff, to instead going on field trips to go look at houses all day. So.
And I think that's part of what makes me enjoy working with you, is because oftentimes customers will call me up and Mike already kind of told us about what to expect. They have an idea of what's going on, and then I know that you and I are in sync with everything. If I have if we have something come up during the process, I talk to the customers, and I'm not worried about them calling you and asking you about it, because you understand the process and you understand where I'm coming from when I say X.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's probably a lot easier for you when I tell my client, like, "Hey, so and so is going to call you to get you pre-approved. Have 2 years of tax returns ready, 2 years W-2s, 2 months of bank statements, basically ready." If you already have those ready when you make the call, then it makes the call faster and easier and much more painless. So. And just being able to kind of prep them for the lending process if they get to me without being pre-approved somehow. Usually I'm pretty good about getting them the other way around. I'd rather they talk to a lender first and then me, but I can work with them either way.
So I'm not going to try to put you on the spot here, but I'm kind of going to put you on the spot. Do you remember your first transaction?
Actually, there were two. So, the first one I think I got was from your former, Matt, who worked at your former employer. He called me up and he's like, "Hey, I have this guy. He wants to see this acreage in Monroe, Iowa," which is now, that's 45 minutes away. Not necessarily my go-to area, but he sends me the lead. He's got a pre-approved buyer, sends it to me. I go show him the house. We write the paper contract up, literally inked it there, and he signed and got it submitted, got it accepted. It wasn't my first closing, though. That actually ended up being my friend Justin, who I actually had sent to Matt as, just kind of was like, "Hey, thank you." I didn't know any other lenders really other than the ones I'd worked with in the past, and he was the one who lived across the street. So, and I know Justin still lives in that house, and so, but yeah, that would have been my first closing. and then oddly enough, my third one was a contract sale, which I had to go all the way through my office. I knew absolutely nothing about like a basically it's owner financing, and so knew absolutely nothing about the process. I had to ask probably 30 agents in my office, and only one of them had ever done one. And so like it was a real trial by fire on that one. And eventually I got it figured out. And then it was a 1-year balloon deal, and so I'm sitting, and I was only able to collect half my commission at closing, and the other half I had to get when he refinanced and paid off the balloon note. Wow. So I'm sitting here calling the other agent, being like, "Hey, have they closed yet?" I'm calling my buyer, being like, "Hey, you're in default on this contract." A year later, because I had it on my Google Calendar, and and they end up. They do end up closing, and the other agent had completely forgotten about it. And so he's like, "Oh, cool. I guess we'll get an extra, couple $1,000, But like, it wasn't like a huge deal. But that one was rough, and actually, it was a guy who used to fight who actually fought in the UFC on the Ultimate Fighter TV show. So,
whoa, okay.
Yeah, so,
don't want to really get them too mad.
Yeah, no. But it was tough because you have these two guys who all want to throw both the landlord. The seller wants to. It was an investment like triplex, or I think it was a duplex or triplex, and the seller wants to get the last punch on the counter offer, and then you have a professional fighter who also wants to get the last punch. So we're sitting there arguing over like $50 by the end of it, and I just.
That was back when your hair was a lot shorter.
Yeah, my hair was a lot shorter, so there wasn't a lot to pull out then.
That's awesome. So then. That's really memorable for you. I'm surprised you remember that so well. So then, any other super memorable ones? Obviously, you talked to your customers a lot.
I mean, I've done, obviously, I've done some commercial deals, which have been pretty memorable. Because like they're for friends of the family or my friend's family even. Those have been great. I mean, obviously, because the big ones are always kind of memorable, but it's like also kind of fun when you get to actually help people too, because you find like the first time buyers or like people who call you and they're like, "Hey, is this for rent?" And you're like, "Wait, what? Why are you calling me about rentals?" It's like because typically in Des Moines we don't usually use an agent for rentals, but they do now to some degree, but it's still pretty limited. And then I end up converting those guys into actual buyers because they didn't even think they could buy, and so that kind of tends to be a lot of fun, when I kind of get a hold of somebody who isn't even sure if they can buy, and like then I just I get them to the right lending partner to make it a reality for them, because the deal that Matt had sent me, the one that was in Monroe, he actually was not the lender that closed that. It was another lender who works with us. He was working for Wells Fargo because his company was not able to do an FHA loan on a manufactured property, and so this is again where my lending expertise is kind of come in handy. Matt knew he couldn't do it, and so we were like, well, who else? What other lenders do we know? Because this guy, we're going to have to, deny this guy's loan, but it's a doable loan. It is like FHA does offer financing for manufactured homes. It's just not super commonly used, and not all lenders can do all products. So we managed to find a lender, Isaac Young, and we shot it over to Isaac, and then I know you know him, and he ended up closing the deal, and so so we got the guy to the finish line, and just unfortunately Matt didn't get paid on this one, but
karma comes around.
Yeah,
so he got it back later.
Right.
So
yeah.
So then, take me a step even further back in your past. Where are you from? Are you from Des Moines?
Yeah, I grew up in Johnston, and I live in Clive now. So, I'm probably living less than 10 miles from where I grew up. So, graduated Iowa and then came back because I like it here. So.
And Wells Fargo was the first place, or did you have?
No. Actually, I worked for a company called Bay TSP. It was an internet anti-piracy company. Doesn't exist anymore. It got bought out by Erdetto. But so essentially, I was an internet cop for a little while. Love it, put it frankly. We would track down like people who were posting like copyrighted content on YouTube, stuff like that for their lawsuit or for the lawsuits associated with that, and some other companies that were their clients at the time. So this was 12, 15 years ago, and so like the company doesn't even exist anymore, essentially in that form. So
So, knowing you, I know you got your partner and you've got your kid. How are you planning to bring your kid into the real estate world?
Honestly, I just want her to find something she enjoys and that she's passionate about. So whether it's real estate or it's something else, she could be the next Caitlin Clark, Tim. So who knows?
But she's not. Has she been into any houses yet? You taking her to some opens?
I've taken her to closings because when we're just when both
she gets
parents,
the coffee.
Yeah, both parents are working, so I took her to a closing that I had with a childhood close friend. So it's not like every day, but at the same time, if I show up with a baby, no one's really gonna blink at it. And at a closing, I'm just there to sit and smile. Like, to be honest, I show up, I'm like, all right, here, I'm gonna smile, make sure there's nothing else wrong. But by the time we get to closing, I've already made sure everything's not wrong, hopefully. And if I haven't, then then I get to deal with a little extra stress. So.
I get it. I've shown up to closings with my kids. Sometimes they're sick, or sometimes they're just the school's out, and you got to show up with a kid.
Well, you did it right before I had my baby, actually. So it was a closing we had together, and you showed up with
Cal, I think it was.
and so your assistant was there to help. He was well behaved, and so
I think you played with this tablet the whole time. We didn't have to worry about it.
It's pretty casual, and I don't think people are gonna,
Well, it's my first opportunity usually to meet the customer, because
a lot of times
don't want to come in ahead of time. They want to do everything over the phone because it's convenient, and that's totally great.
Well,
but I want to make sure that I actually attend the closing so I can see everything.
And that's kind of a trend I'm seeing too, where it's like a lot of people, especially younger buyers, they have anxiety about answering the phone. And I want to have the conversation on the phone. I don't want to just sit there and type and wait.
Voice to text usually messes up for me.
Yeah, I'd rather have a quick conversation, usually 5 minutes, could be 10 maybe, if that, and just kind of see where they're at, what they want to do. And then I get all the questions I have, because sometimes when they answer a question, it leads to another question, and then I can figure out, what they qualify for, what they might be available for, because like if somebody calls me up and they're like, hey, I think I have bad credit. I was like, well, have you had a pull? And they're like, no. And so I'm like, all right, well, it's free to do. You call them up, call the lender, just say you want to apply, and they'll tell you. And the nice thing about setting something to Kyle is usually they'll be like, all right, your credit score, let's say it is low. Let's say your credit's 450, but it's only because of a delinquency or some sort of debt that you just haven't paid off. And it's like, oh, well, I didn't even know that existed, because that does happen too. A lot of times, there'll be things in collections that people just aren't aware of, and you can't fix something if you don't know what's broken. So
that's one of my practices. Is I go over the full credit report with the customer, and a lot of times they say, well, Kyle, I know everything that's on the credit report. I'm like, okay, that's good. I hope you do, but I'm going to go over everything just in case. And sometimes we uncover stuff, and they're like, whoa, where's that? I didn't know that was on my name. I actually had one just the other day that the gal said it's her mom's card, and she hasn't talked to her mom in years. She had no idea that she was an authorized user on that card, but her mom's been making the payments, and it's actually helped her credit out a lot more than she realized. So it works out great.
Yeah, sometimes you can add them as an authorized user and kind of give them an instant credit score, essentially, for parents out there who want their kid to be able to establish credit history. They don't even have to use the card or even know. Well, you should let them know that they're not authorized users, but they would never, be able to use have a copy of the card, and they can benefit from your good credit.
I think that's one of my long-term goals, is just to make sure all of my cards that I have right now stay active, and I keep using them every so often just to make sure that they stay active, so that one day I can go and I can add my kids as an authorized user, and they're going to have credit from 18 years ago, and they're only 17 years old or 16 years old. It's like, how was your credit alive before you were even alive? It's because those credit cards, they are not going to go away. Yeah. So what are your short-term and long-term goals with real estate?
Short-term, it's just, keep selling, and also I got to renew my license this year. That's one thing you have to do it every 3 years, and so this will be the end of my 9th year in real estate, and so I've got to do that before the end of the year. So that's
how many classes do you have to go?
I don't do any classes. I just I take the test. It's I don't have to. I'll study for a couple hours, and then take the test and be done with it. So a lot of people they'll take the classes. The classes are nice, but I just don't have 40 hours to give up. And so
more power to you. I think the test is probably harder than taking classes, right? Taking a class, some people
I don't know.
Maybe.
It's probably harder, but at the same time, I don't know. Time's expensive, so fact, that's I definitely value my time. So
Awesome. I'm going to get into the quick picks segment. I'm going to ask you some this or that. You can answer A or B, and then if you want to expand upon it, you're welcome to.
all right.
So, urban living or suburban life?
I love it in the suburbs. I mean, I wouldn't move urban. I'd probably, if anything, I'd go more rural. So
Yeah. You want to own an acre someday?
Yes and no. I mean, it's like, I wanna live out, a little bit out of town, but also like they're expensive, and
Sure.
if you want to be close enough, and if you get too far away, then none of your friends will come visit you. So or you're forced to make new friends, and so.
You have a young child. You're not going to have any new friends or any friends these days. Like,
Well, I mean, they have their kids the same age, and hopefully they like the parents. So we'll see.
favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh, probably mint chocolate chip or something.
Oh, that's the worst one.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
My wife gets that when she knows that I'm not going to eat ice cream. She'll go out and get that so that way I can't eat it.
So I usually go with like an Oreo Blizzard.
There you go.
So it's like usually soft serve. It's pretty rare I get it out of the bucket. So
Fixer upper or move in ready?
Fixer upper if it's priced right, because then I can do it myself or how I want it. But otherwise, like the move in ready is just super easy, and the problem is like if I go move in ready, it'd be I'd almost have to do a new build now because I go look at houses for a living, so all of a sudden I'm like a little bit more picky and exacting about certain things, like at least for my next house.
Well, I had to laugh. I think about this occasionally. With I obviously wasn't laughing when your house caught fire.
Yeah,
that was
I
very
appreciate your
unfortunate.
help on that one.
Not laughing about that. I came and helped out with the demo. That's how I met Isaac, when we talked about earlier. But what I totally appreciated was you basically built a bachelor pad. You built a house that you could control with your phone, essentially. And right after you did that, you got a long-term girlfriend.
Yeah, funny how that works. So guys out there, if you need a dating tip, get a house. I'll sell it to you. I promise. then it'll come with a girlfriend eventually. But the girlfriends come with kids after your parents tell you about that.
Beach vacation or mountain retreat?
Oh, I've tended towards beach vacations lately. I love going to Colorado, go do some skiing, but beach vacations are just so turnkey nowadays because you can get on the internet, you can order. And you know how much it's going to cost too. I'm kind of a cheapskate, so you can order an all-inclusive, go snorkeling, do all that stuff, flights, and you know exactly what you're going to spend. If you go out to Aspen or Steamboat or Keystone, whatever you go to out in Colorado, that adds up fast, and you don't know how much it's going to cost.
Just keep swiping that card.
Yeah, ski passes are like $200 now. It's unreal. So
I've never actually been. I've just heard. I've looked at the prices because I've considered I'm not a very good golfer, but I go spend the $40 at golf once in a while, right?
yeah, sure, same.
I don't know that I want to spend $250, $300 for a ski pass.
It's tough.
I don't even know how to freaking ski.
I mean, especially
I'm 6'10".
and you don't. I mean, I know when I was learning how to snowboard. When I was learning how to snowboard, I remember how sore I was, the first few days, and so I couldn't imagine. I mean, to get your money's worth, you kind of got to run the whole 8 hours that they're open. You got to be there from open to close, essentially. And I'm 40. I don't know if I can do that. So,
But have you been out to Sleepy Hollow yet, or the old Sleepy Hollow?
I used to have season. I had a season pass out to Sleepy Hollow for years, and so I went in high school, and then.
So I was just part of a focus group a couple years ago now, and they brought out this mountain out of Sleepy Hollow, and they put on fake snow. It's like fake turf snow type stuff, and supposedly they brought in a world-renowned skiing instructor. They have year-round tubing.
Mm-hmm.
They've got all this stuff, and maybe that's a better way for me to learn.
I would. It'll give you a feel for how sore because there's muscles in your legs that you're probably not used to using, and so that's that. And then your butt will get sore from falling. So those two things.
I'm just worried I'm going to break a leg. Those skis look so long. My legs are about as long as those skis. That just looks dangerous.
I won't go on a mountain without a helmet anymore. That's for sure. And I did break my elbow in Sleepy Hollow actually when I was 15. So yeah.
Favorite kind of pizza?
Usually I go ham and bacon. So that's what I've been ordering lately. So
then I feel like the answer to this next question is yes, but do you put pineapple on it then?
No, there's no pineapple on that one. I mean, I don't. I'm not going to be a pineapple snob, but it's not a go-to topping for me.
Okay, That's
Probably put yellow peppers on before that.
Okay, fair. First-time buyers or experienced investors? Obviously, you'll work with both, but which one do you really like?
I mean, I like the consistency of having like an investor who's just income wise, like for my business model. Yeah, it's great to have
Somebody who's going to buy repetitive.
like somebody who's going to buy 4 homes a year. Yeah, that's great. But I think I enjoy as far as what I enjoy, probably enjoy working with the first timers more just because it gets them in. I enjoy the process. I have fun with it. I think I provide a pretty valuable service. I think I'm helpful, and I think it's fun to see them, get excited about it too. Whereas like investors, I mean, they're great. They aren't going to be like excited about it. They're looking at it and be like, all right, well, market rents are this, math is this. This is how much I can charge. I mean, it's a much colder transaction. Whereas with first time buyers, it's fun to help them picture how they are going to live in that house. And so, or at least, or to point out, sometimes it's great to be like, hey, this probably won't work for you because you're looking at $30,000 in foundation repairs and you don't have any money for a down payment. So, you probably, would want to move on from this one and go into something more turnkey. So, because, typically I don't know the buyer's financial situation, but if I do learn of it, then then I can kind of be a better advisor on that. But it's none of my business typically, so I don't ever pry or ask about it.
I feel like people relate to you a lot because I think this is probably the most dressed up I've ever seen you. And so I feel like people, when they see you, they know you're pretty well dressed down and you're there to just get to know them and help them. I also think that part of the reason, I can totally understand why you love first-time buyers. And even, the question says first-time buyers. I think it's even just buyers in general, because one of our most recent transactions together, we helped out a gal and her boyfriend, and there were things throughout the process that she told me she was learning from you, that she was telling me she was learning from me, that she had never learned before, and they lived in a duplex or a quadplex. They lived in one of the units of a building they already owned, and there are so many things that have changed in those past several years that they don't remember / they're not in it every day like we are. So an educator, I think, is what you are, and I think most investors don't really need the educator. They need the guy that's going to help them.
Yeah, with investors, typically the biggest help would be just kind of identifying potential inspection problems or things that they're going to have to pay for down the road. Whereas with first-time buyers, kind of walk them through the process. Like with that client in particular, I told them that triplex, and they maybe 2 years prior or something like that. And we ran into inspection difficulties with one that we found. That one I couldn't have spotted. It was an entire wall that needed basically replaced because, according to the inspector, it was the worst infestation of carpenter ants they'd ever had and ever seen as in 8 or 9 years of inspecting. So they that one. So we walked away from that transaction. They did end up selling that house, but they weren't. We weren't. With an inspection, they don't, drill through the drywall, so you can't really tell what's behind the walls. And but with the volume of ants that we were seeing, it's not just normally when you look for wood destroying pests, you're looking for evidence of ants. You usually aren't seeing like dozens of them just coming out of this hole repeatedly, and so you couldn't tell how far it went back. And then in the attic there was. It was a clean house too, or it looked like a clean house. And in the attic though, there were just pounds of rat shit all over the place, and it was and we would have never. Those are things that I'm not poking my head in the attic typically. So these are things that I can't spot. But then whereas it is a relief when you get to an inspection though, and you've already pointed something out, so it's not a surprise. That's a lot of fun for me, and then it's a relief for the buyers. But no, regarding my uniform though, it's I get to dress casual because I feel like if I'm dressed up, then the buyer's paying for that, and so I know in my own personal experience, when I go shop for a car or when I shop for jewelry, those are the two least favorite things to shop for. Sure. And they're always being sold by someone in a suit, and I always know I'm about to get ripped off because they're going to make their money. So
I'm going to an event tonight. Okay, this is why I messed up.
Fair enough. And so when but whenever I like go shop for either of those two things, I like break out into cold sweat, and I'm like, all right, well, I want the buyers to be comfortable. You know, I mean, it's casual. It's not. It is serious, but it's not like so serious that you can't joke and enjoy the process too. So,
all right, we got a few more of these. I want to get through them quick fire here so we can get into our trending topic.
All right.
So favorite adult beverage?
You know, I drink a lot of Bud Light and Fireball, but lately my favorite's been jalapeno margaritas.
Ooh,
those are good. Yeah, it's a nice surprise when you get some booze mixed in with some heat. I don't know, I like it.
So you already kind of touched on this, but I'll ask it anyways. New construction or historic homes?
Well, definitely not historic. I enjoy looking at historic homes, but they're just I would probably go new over that. It's just the historic homes, if it's in a historical district, have a lot of things that buyers should be aware of, like before they buy, because, like, say they want to replace the windows, there's limits on what you can do, and in historic districts, in particular, it's you're limited with how you can repair them or bring them, make them more livable. So
Winter or summer?
Probably summer. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Reading or watching TV?
I'd probably scrolling the internet count as reading. Yeah, otherwise it's gonna be watching the TV.
Watching videos on your phone, is that what you're saying? Or?
No, I do read when I'm on my phone. Like, I'm reading like headlines.
Okay.
So not always the articles, but usually the headlines.
Cooking at home or dining out?
I'd rather cook at home, or more, I'd rather Cassie cook for me at home.
She a good cook?
She is an excellent cook. Actually,
I'll snip at that for her and send it to you.
Incredible cook. Yeah,
that's awesome. Phone call or text messages?
I'd probably prefer a phone call, but text is great because it's essentially an email, but most people respond to it faster than an email. So,
and with you and having a young kid and just life in general,
a little slower now than I was, but I mean, I
texts are better.
Texts are fantastic, but if you call, I can usually put whatever I'm doing down. Unless I'm in the middle of something, then I'll call you back. So,
early bird or night owl?
Oh, I'm a night owl. I have one day a week where I wake up consistently before 9 o'clock, and so I do night duty. So, like with the baby, but
so the world is about to change, man.
Oh well, yeah,
baby.
Yeah, no,
it's going to be a full grown student.
I'll get her up if she wakes up at 4 a.m. I handle that, but in the morning, that's not my bag usually. I mean, so
you're going to have school drop off 7 a.m.
Actually, no, I have 3 days because Cassie does class now. So now I get up Tuesday, Thursday, and Wednesday. Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever.
You don't even know when you wake up because you're so tired.
Yeah, today was an early day, as you can tell. And so, yeah, no, definitely late.
One app you cannot live without on your phone.
Oh, probably showing time. Probably, I mean, that would be the main one. Because we have an app that we can use to schedule showings, kind of plot routes. It's fantastic, and that way I don't have to call every agent every time I want to see a property. And so I still do have to call agents sometimes, but.
Favorite local restaurant?
I like Flying Mango a lot. They're a big fan of that. South Union, if I'm ever downtown, I'm never downtown for lunch, but if I'm ever downtown between 10 and 1:30, I have to stop at South Union. Those would be.
My spot's probably G-Mix.
G-Mix?
G-Mix. Whenever we don't have kids, we have to stop it there.
Well, I guess if you're counting bars, then I'd throw in Flying Moose, because every day buy one get one till 8 o'clock. Fantastic place, and then every night is different specials. Tuesdays it does go all night. So
you and your jalapeno margaritas got you flying a lot. Flying Mango, Flying Moose,
yeah.
All right, so trending topic. So as we've already talked about, there are a lot of people who have seen issues with home inspections, and in fact, this year I think that we've had quite a bit of buyers that have stopped with the process because of things that have come back on the inspection. What do you attribute that to, and how do you as an agent handle home inspections in that process with your buyers?
Okay, so I tend, all the inspections that I can. If there are other commitments or pre-existing commitments, then otherwise I try to attend them. But having done this, attended almost all of them for the last 8.5 years, learned a lot, which is great. So what I try and do is I know what's going to get picked up on an inspection, or at least I have a general idea because I know I pay attention to what the inspector's saying. So I look for that when I'm walking through the house. Obviously there are going to be some things that I won't know. I mean, I won't know like that there's reverse polarity on the wall outlet, or that a fuse is double tapped, or but there are things that are easy to look for that I can spot, whether it's a stain on the ceiling from moisture penetration, or bubbling on a roof, or gutters that are hanging off, or downspouts that are clogged. Million things that you can look for. I mean, like I had one client who almost bought a house, but then they didn't realize it didn't even have a dishwasher, which that's easy. It's surprisingly easy to miss, because if you're in a smaller kitchen, you look at it, you just assume that every house has a dishwasher, right? Apparently they don't all have them. They were going with the more European model on that one. So, biggest thing with inspections though is good agent, whether you use me or use somebody else, I think will tell you will identify as much wrong with the property before you start spending money. Because I mean, you're spending $500 to get to the inspection. But if your agent hasn't identified some of the ones that are visible, not that your agent's not an inspector, don't confuse that. But if they see something, they should say something, because then when you get to the inspection, the inspector's like, hey, I noticed X, Y, Z, it may be X, Y, Z, and and this is how you fix it. They'll tell you a general idea of what you need to do to fix it too, which is great. But if you've already gotten there and then the buyer's like, oh yeah, Mark told me about that, it's kind of a sense of relief for both myself, and the inspector, because then they're not like breaking the news, and so then it prevent, so then we have our offer accordingly, up front. So, and then obviously, if we do find something new, like say there's a leak under the sink that we didn't see, or I mean, there's so many things that it could be, or the radon comes back at 400 parts per billion, or whatever. We can ask for these things, and negotiate accordingly. But it's nice when you're able to point out some of the things that they're going to find, and typically the better agents that I've worked with will make their clients aware of that while they're walking through it, as opposed to just being like, oh my God, this house is so perfect, you need to buy it. It's like, if I'm saying something about like, hey, this is wrong with this house, it's not because I'm criticizing the house. I'm just like saying like, hey, this is going to show up on the inspection. Somebody's going to tell you that. And then, but I also encourage buyers to attend the inspection, because if they don't, what they end up doing is they get this long, scary looking report that says deep, marginal, or needs service, whatever. And so you have this report that you get with no explanation attached to it beyond what they wrote down. And so nobody can kind of explain like, hey, you need to call a plumber. I can't tell you how much it's going to cost because I'm not a contractor, but no agent should ever be telling you how much it should cost. But, they should give you, contact information so you can call and, figure out how much it will cost to fix. But usually if you know how to fix something, or if you're told how to fix it, it becomes a lot less scary to look at. I don't know, I think psychologically, but yeah.
Well, I think the theme of the day today was educator. I think Mark is an educator. I think Mark wants to make sure that his customers feel educated. So if you're listening and you are maybe a buyer, maybe a seller, Mark talked about inspections. You could be looking to sell your house and just thinking, hey, what do I need to do to list my house? Mark knows all these things, and he's going to be looking for them. And you might want to get an inspector in there, but he's also going to be able to come in and tell you some things about, things that you could be improving with your house before you get it listed. So if you're interested, you need to learn at all throughout the process. I think the process is changing all the time. Me personally, I was just talking to Mark about this before we came in here today. Guidelines are changing so frequently, I have to double check everything. That's why he said you talk to your lender and ask questions, because unfortunately things change so much, we have to look at it every single day to see what's changed. But again, Mark's the educator. Mark, how would people get a hold of you if they want to get educated?
You can call 515-577-8241, or you can email bunge.mark@gmail.com. It's bunge.mark@gmail.com. Either one works, or you can text the same number that I gave beforehand, and yeah, and I'd be happy to help, or at least answer any questions you might have. And if you're looking to buy or sell, especially anywhere near Des Moines. As I said, I mean, Monroe's not outside my service area, so I'm licensed statewide. Though mostly just the 9-county area centering around Polk.
Well, thanks for joining, Mark.
Yeah,
Appreciate having you
yeah,
here.
no, appreciate you having me.
And if you learned something today, feel free to give Mark a shout. Otherwise, like, subscribe, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Take care, guys.